Hey everybody, Callan here. Today we're going to show you how to put together a funnel inside Lead Connector. In order to get started, you're going to want to go to the site area. We're putting together a funnel, so you're going to click Funnel up in the top right, New Funnel, and you have the option to go to the template library, in which you can choose a fun template from one of the categories, which we might go into another time. We're going to do this one right from the ground up. We're going to just put in a funnel name, hit new, and over here we've got a couple tabs to go through. We have your steps tab. These are going to be all the different pages that are going to be here in the funnel. Stats, you're going to be able to see once this is all set up and going. The sales page, when you have orders that are actually coming through here. Settings, the settings are going to be the domain that gets attached here. Currently, there's not a domain attached. We'll go through another training on specifically how to go through and add those domains. You also have different code that you may need to put in for tracking for the body or the header. Now, this is a funnel-wide tracking code, so that means that's going to happen on every single page that happens. You also have your payment mode switch for your test mode or your live mode. We're going to just leave it in test mode for now. We don't have a payment mode integrated into this dummy account at the moment. So in order to get started, we're just going to go ahead and add a new step. We're going to name for the page. I'm just going to call this offer for now. That's an internal name. That's what you're going to see over here on the left side. I'm going to name the path the same thing. So that's going to be like your domain / offer is what's going to show up here. If you have a ClickFunnels account and you have a funnel that you'd like to pull in, you can add the URL for it right here and it'll automatically pull it in, but we're just going to make our own for now. And then you have the option of using an existing page, which we're not going to do, or you can create it from a blank. We're going to go ahead and create from a blank, and it's going to launch the editor. Now, the editor is made of a couple of parts. You have the section, which can be full width, wide, medium, or small. We're just going to do full width. That's the one I normally will work in. Inside each section, you're going to have a row, which has a series of columns in it. You can either have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 columns. We're going to go with a 1-column layout now just for simplicity, but we can add an additional column below that. You see 2 columns, so now you have a space here, and then below that you have a space side by side here and here. The next piece that we need to look at are elements. The elements are going to be things like your headline, subheadlines, paragraph, bullet list, adding a form, a list of blog posts, videos, images, basically all the little pieces and parts that make up your individual funnel. So let's just drop a headline in here. So you can highlight it and you can change the name. This is my headline, right? And then if you'd like to, you can add an additional element below that. I have a sub headline, more info below, right? You can see we can play with and modify these pieces: bold, italic, strike through, underscore, or so rather underline. We can add hyperlinks so that it's clickable, and then we can have different types of preset formats and even clear the formats that are there. When you click any element on the left-hand side here, you're going to see that there's a whole section dedicated to this specific element. And it's going to change a little bit based on the element you do, but in general, you're going to have things like control over the background color of that specific element. You're going to have control over the opacity, whether it's faded, partly heavy, all of those things, whether there's a shadow, basically your text treatments, type of spacing that you have, whether you're aligned left, right, middle, center, all the same stuff you get in a text editor. But then we have both mobile and desktop font size. So here's something to really pay attention to when you're designing. Your desktop font size here is the default view, and as you can see, it makes it bigger, smaller, whichever it is. You don't want to pay attention to these numbers. It's going to make it really easy to make sure that you're using consistent sizes throughout wherever you'd like to be doing that. But then you also want to take a look at the mobile layout. If you look at the very top of the screen up here, the back button, so it's the third screen over, the third icon over from the left is going to say mobile. So if you click that, this is what it's going to look like on a mobile device. So when it scales into a mobile device, you might choose that you want your desktop headline to be huge and take up a ton of room, right? But if we set the mobile size to take up a ton of room, it doesn't really fit so well. So then we'll have to come into this view and play with a different layout if we want that same format or a slightly different format depending on what is happening. We can do that, and then we can enable or disable certain elements based on this visibility setting under the Advanced tab. So if you click on the little desktop picture here, it's going to be enabled for desktop, or the mobile picture here, it's enabled for mobile. So what we could say is we don't want this element at all on mobile. So now you can see it's here on desktop, but it's gone on mobile. Or we want it back, we turn it back on. That's how easy it is. You'll see the subheading is the same thing. Now your blue column in row settings have the same option, right? You have one setting for column settings, which is this like a periwinkle kind of color, and then blue is going to give you the row settings. So this will be how much padding or space that there is between the edge of the row and where the lettering starts for left, right, top, bottom, middle. Margin is going to be how much space that there actually is between the elements. So you can see here, if we had a bottom margin, it's going to push that 2 row down further before it even starts. So that'll help you with spacing. We can adjust the background color of that whole row instead of just the headline like we did just a minute ago, as well as different alignments and shadows. You can add a background image here if you'd like. There's an image library in here. Like we can just grab that as an example, and now you can see that that's been applied to the background. And then you can control the different treatments with that, how large you want it, if you want it to repeat or not repeat, if you want it to be centered, and each one will align it slightly differently. We're not going to use that. We're just basically showing you how to do it. But then we can also have the widths for how wide we want that specific column. And then if you look in the section settings, we have all the same options, but then you also have allow rows to take the entire width. So that'll allow your rows to come right to the edge of the page and snap them up instead of having this little border behind it, if that is what you would like to do. All right, so you can see here we can go ahead and we can add an image element, we can add a video element, right? If we can add another section, another row, and let's say we want an FAQ below that, and that'll give you these little expandies. We can even add our own little custom code snippets if there's something we'd like to embed. If we have any existing surveys or forms, we can embed those directly in the page. You just select them and select there, and then it'll import the form as you've got it designed. Any changes that happen to that form within the system are automatically going to populate within this page, which is really awesome, especially if you have forms that you use in a bunch of places. You can add a review block, so anytime you have reviews and testimonials, you can get those added here automatically. Countdown timers, minute timers, day timers, right? So they're going to look like that, and then you have all of the options to be able to set those and kind of have some control over what they look like. So with this one, if we were to we set this end date, right? We're going to set this end date to let's say December 1st, right, at 12 a.m. And then it's going to say 23 days, 3 hours, 42 minutes, 7 seconds, and it's just going to keep track of that for us. So maybe if you had time to launch, something like that, that'd be a pretty cool way to be able to do it, or until a cart closed, something like that. Navigation menu is a little bit unique. It allows you to be able to set menu items like home, and then you can go to website URL or just go to a specific step within the funnel. We don't have any more steps set up, but then as you can see, you get the home, about, contact, and it gives you little drop downs to be able to use. It's a good way to be able to use it for more of a general information website type header. Another one that trips people up is we've got different order elements. We have one-step order, two-step order form, and order confirmation. Order confirmation is like a receipt, shows what they ordered. One-step order form, it's going to give them the ability to fill in their information, select their item, and complete the order in one shot. The two-step order form is going to have 2 different pages. It's going to select their name and shipping info, and then their other info, and you can switch between all of the different options for borders and full under advanced, and then You can change your button sizes, button style, colors, button and text colors, corners, typography for the headline, what happens when you complete it, whether you go to the next step, the URL, or you select a specific step from there. And then under the advanced section, you can look at your form options, so you can see what's specifically here in step 1. You can enable the country picker so that they have to select the country. You can show shipping or hide shipping. If you're not shipping it, you might want to hide it. Otherwise, you might want to show it because you're going to need that. You can also rename any of those options. You can enable the cart mode and product descriptions. You can enable order bumps, so you can set up products and then add them so that they can be added here with a one-tick upsell. We can go through some more of these options in a little more depth later. Step 2 is going to collect all your payment info. You can also enable the postal code down here, so they need their zip code to do it. And that is the main meat and potatoes, getting used to playing around with these and getting familiar with this is going to be a big deal for you. Pop-ups. You have one button access to the actual pop-up, and you can choose to show the pop-up if they try to exit. If it leaves the window or they try to use the back button, it'll pop it up. But wait, we'll take 10% off, or something like that. You can close the pop-up on clicking outside. So if you just click out here, it could close instead of having to actually close the X to do it. You can disable the pop-up altogether, so it actually doesn't pop up on the site. We don't want to define a pop-up here, so we can just go ahead and do that. And then we can go on with whatever we're doing by hitting that little X and closing it. You can also install specific tracking code or CSS code for this one specific page, or the tracking code looks almost the same thing. You got the header here, footer here. You can mess with your specific typographies, Google fonts, all kinds of good stuff there, as well as your SEO and metadata. So your title, description, your keywords, author, social image URL. So that's the image that's going to actually show up when it shares, but you also can do custom meta tags. And then it shows you kind of what it looks like, and then you'll have to hit use metadata or update metadata in order to do that. And then when you save, if you haven't filled this out, it's going to be like, hey, you haven't done this yet. So that's definitely a thing that you want to do. Let's see, another big feature here is the calendar embed. So you can select a calendar, and the calendar is going to allow you to have people schedule, just like Calendly or something like that. So you'll select a date, select a time, select it, and then it'll ask you for some additional info, name, address, phone number, email. And very important thing to know about when we're doing anything with these forms, which reminded me because we use this a lot when we do forms, something called sticky forms or sticky contact. So if we have a form that we pull in and we enter some data on the form or the survey, you can make sure that if they've already entered any of this information and they've submitted it and the session cookie is still active. So if I just submit, say, my name and my email address, and then I'm going to fill out the survey afterwards, I'm going to get the questions from the survey and everything's going to submit together, and all helps tie everything together into the same session, client profile, make sure everything gets attached properly. But also so people don't have to re-enter the data a couple of times. People are usually more willing to enter data if you take them through it step by step, as opposed to here's an 8-mile long form and you need to enter all the information. So that is the basics of how to do your funnel. We're going to save this just so we can see. But you got this preview button up here, and you can see this is what we designed, which looks absolutely horrible. But this is what you get for a quick little preview. It's going to show you exactly what it's going to look like. And then we can go through and get this just the way we want it. So we'll go back to the main page here. And then we're going to, if you add a new step, you're going to add an additional page to the funnel. So you probably want you would probably maybe want this to go to a thank you page for sure. So then we create that step, and then we build what that page will look like. So now when we submit the form on this page, we direct it to this page. It says, hey, thanks for ordering, all that fun stuff. If we have a cart on this page, you're going to definitely want to place products in here, and that is a subject for a whole other video. So I think we're going to leave it at that. That is a lot for you to play with and get comfortable with. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments down below, and don't forget